Hey everyone, it's James. Before we get into it, I just want to say I'm making a big announcement at the end of this episode. So if you want to know what I've been working on, you want to know what I'm about to offer to the community of podcast listeners to better your mountain experience this summer, tune in to the end of the episode, and I hope to see you there. All right, let's get into this week's episode. It's a fun one. Marcy, Skylight, Gray, Cliff, and Redfield, done. Now the long walk back to the lodge. 3:55 a.m., just signed in. Santanoni Range, let's go. The wind is whipping here in the Seward Range today. Just finished the Macomb slide and my legs are on fire. Well, I fell victim to the floating logs again. Made it to the top of East Dix, peak number 3 of 5 for today here in the Dix Range. Avalanche Pass. On top of Rocky Peak Bridge, it's like a hurricane up here. Rain and wind here on Tabletop. Whiteface, number 6. Muddy day here on Street and Nye for number 7 and 8. Sunny and blue on Haystack. Algonquin, up in the clouds, number 18. Gothics, number 22. Panther, number 38. Allen, number 45. 7:12 a.m. Big Slide, Adirondack 46er. You're listening to the 46 of 46 podcast. The Adirondack Mountains has always been a place that attracts those seeking both rest and recreation. From hiking to paddling and everything in between, the Adirondack Park offers an experience like no other. And while many seek the high peaks for their stunning beauty, the lakes, the trails, and unparalleled mountain adventures, these vast wilderness trails have also served a more sinister purpose in the past. A refuge for those fleeing the grasp of the law. In the warm summer and crisp fall of 1954, Lake Placid, a town celebrated for its lakes and mountains in Olympic history, became the focal point of a manhunt that gripped the nation. A murderous fugitive who, after committing a heinous crime, vanished into the dense and sprawling wilderness of the Adirondack High Peaks. Now, this isn't just a tale of crime and pursuit. It's about how the very woods, trails, and lean-tos that host thousands of hikers and nature lovers each year also became the perfect backdrop for a desperate escape. Now imagine the dense forests and rugged terrain of the Adirondack High Peaks, and where every trail and shadowy grove could be a perfect hiding spot, where every rustle in the underbrush could either be a deer or a dangerous man on the run. As the leaves turned golden brown and the air grew crisp, a murderer on the run used this expansive wilderness to dodge law enforcement and disappear off the grid. This week on the 46 of 46 podcast, I'll reveal the murderous story from Lake Placid and explore the twists and turns of this gripping saga, from the initial crime to the exhaustive search efforts led by police and rangers, and the tactics used by a man determined never to be caught. Was he a ghost, simply vanishing into thin air? Or maybe a calculated survivalist who knew just how to use the Adirondacks' vast 6 million acres to his advantage? For Major James Call, the Adirondack High Peaks were the perfect place to escape the police. Let's dive in. When readers picked up their Adirondack Daily Enterprise on August 5th, 1954, they got an eyeful of drama. 3 Lake Placid policemen had been gunned down just past midnight, and an urgent call for help was made. "Have you seen this man?" the front page blared. The desperado sought in today's Lake Placid shooting is described as 5 feet 8 inches tall, about 150 pounds, with black bushy hair and a thin mustache, around 35 years old. And one report mentioned that he even walked with a slight limp. The fugitive, dressed in a tan trench coat and jeans, was armed with a knife, a .22 caliber rifle, and a semi-automatic pistol. A 13-state police alarm was sounded and roadblocks were thrown up on major highways and lonely Adirondack roads. Locals were urged to call the police if they saw anything suspicious, but no one should try to be a hero, because there is no question This man is desperate and dangerous, the newspaper warned. The shootout capped off a month of frayed nerves in and around Lake Placid. Since early July, there had been a series of break-ins at unoccupied camps, and even a botched armed robbery near the serene Mirror Lake in Lake Placid. And most of the burglars' grabs were of a practical nature, a portable radio, a change of clothes, maybe a jar of peanut butter, although there was a report of major jewel heists happening at the exclusive Lake Placid club. From the list of mostly household goods that were stolen, police figured the culprit was using the Adirondacks as a hideout, maybe from a major crime he committed somewhere else. The area offered a cover of thick forest as well as plum pickings at swanky Lake Placid to carry a criminal through a sticky situation he may find himself in. But a break in the case came when a caretaker for Dr. Perkins, an Albany area dentist, told police he thought someone had been squatting in his boss's cabin on West Valley Road from time to time. Investigators guessed that their man must have been living in the backcountry under blue skies and then using this vacation home in this cabin as a shelter when it stormed. So they went over there and they watched and they waited. And their hunch paid off in the drizzly early morning hours of August 5th when they realized their man was holed up in this rainy day. One of the officers radioed for Sergeant Dominic Valenzi, who had a key to the cabin. And then when he arrived at the scene, Valenzi and Patrolman Bernard Fell moved in, while Patrolman Richard Pelkey and John Fagan stood guard outside the cabin. After sweeping the first floor, Valenzi and Fell proceeded down to the basement, and that's where they found a man crouched in the shower, a desperate man holding a pistol. Valenzi blasted the shower wall with 5 bullets. Each missed its mark, but the fugitive had better luck. Fell was shot in the stomach, and Valenzi took shots to the arm and the chest. Pelkey, who was coming down the stairs after the gunshot, was struck in the chest and the leg himself. The gunman then picked up Fell's .38 revolver and grabbed Valenzi by the belt, using him as a human shield to flee the scene. Valenzi and Fell took weeks to recover from their wounds. However, 31-year-old patrolman Pelkey died 5 days after the attack from the unknown man in the cabin. Cops quickly swarmed the scene with Captain Harold Muller of State Police Troop B out of Malone, spearheading the manhunt. An epic deployment that would include hundreds of police and volunteers, bloodhounds, airplanes, and helicopters. The Plattsburgh Press-Republican reported that any locals wanting to pitch in were told to come on down to the station house and sign up, provided they had their own gun and warm clothes. Muller initially concentrated on a 3-square-mile stretch of woods. By the end of the 104-day hunt, they had searched and scoured millions of acres of the Adirondack Park. The posses ran drives like deer hunters, combing the backcountry in long rows. At the beginning of the epicenter of the search was bounded by State Route 86 and the old military road in Lake Placid, with armed men parked about every 20 feet along those roads. But soon trackers were venturing deep into what's now known as the High Peaks Wilderness, sweeping trails and lean-tos, looking for evidence of the man. Volunteer firemen from villages all across the region were called in to help. At the outset, their prey was only about 3 miles west of Lake Placid, sheltered in a lean-to cobbled together from a green poncho and some brown canvas. The camp was well hidden a mile or so behind the Saranac Lake golf course, and well supplied with gear lifted from local camps. The Adirondack Daily Enterprise wrote that the spot was camouflaged behind an almost uniform wall of pine trees. The fugitives spent the early days of the manhunt hunkered down in the rain, listening to reports of his search on a radio he had. But after a few days, he started moving. And travel was slow in the backcountry, especially in the early 1950s. After a devastating windstorm downed acres of trees, leaving the snarled and forbidding Adirondack backcountry even more snarled and forbidding. The wanted man lived off berries and other food he found around the woods, but he often went hungry, as anybody would. And after his capture, he even admitted that he ate garbage and drank vinegar at one camp out of desperation. Despite its size and scope, the hunt for the cop killer never turned up too much. Almost constant rain hampered any efforts, stopping the bloodhound sniffers and obscuring the view from the sky. Searchers did find, however, a frying pan and some remnants of a fire near Heart Lake in Lake Placid in the eastern High Peaks. And the owner of a sled dog kennel in the northern Adirondacks reported having some missing meat. Over in Long Lake, a caretaker told authorities that there had been suspicious activity around a summer cottage, along with the theft of a bottle of milk and 1 pound of sausage. A canoe that had been borrowed from another camp in the area and a heavy coat and compass were also stolen from a car. But a couple of the closest encounters came a bit farther north in the park. In September, the mystery man ventured out of the wilderness and into the village of Tupper Lake, and he was respectably dressed. In stolen clothes, might I add. He'd kept himself trimmed and shaved. A well-groomed stranger walking the streets raised few eyebrows, though he did get some unwanted attention. He was questioned by a few police officers around town, but chatted his way free and clear, and he even managed to sweet-talk some sandwiches and cake from some kids in a local park. Ah, Tupper Lake. Then on the evening of September 13th, a highway superintendent was stopping by to check out his camp near the Tupper Lake golf course. In the barn behind the cabin, he found a sleeping bag and a duffel bag, and on the bag sat a German Luger. And investigators would verify that it was indeed the weapon that killed Patrolman Pelkey. When he started back to his car, he then saw a shadow and raised his rifle to get a better look through the scope. But just like a scene from a movie, suddenly a truck came along, blinded the man, and the intruder ran away. He flagged down the vehicle and told the driver, "Go get the police." All at once, the attention of the massive search shifted to the area. Fresh roadblocks were placed between Tupper Lake and Long Lake. The Tupper Lake Free Press reported that bloodhounds tracked the killer to a nearby trailhead, but from there the rain washed away the scent. Searchers had been skunked once again, except for commandeering the fugitive's supplies, that is, the gun and the bedding, some clothes and some boots, a hunting knife, a little bit of food, and an Adirondack guidebook with maps of the mountains. Once hunting season began, the cops thought that they could use the army of gun-toting Adirondack woodsmen that would fan out across the region to their advantage. But even with all the extra eyes scouting millions of acres from Tupper Lake all the way down to Northville, there was still no sign of the fugitive. And the weather was turning cold. Those searchers weren't confident that even the coming winter would really flush this man out. There was no telling how many cabins that he could be holed up in, admitted Captain Muller to reporters in early October. He might be more comfortable out there than we are, he reported. The search, however, finally came to an end in November, almost 4 months after the crime. And thanks to William A. Gold, a reporter from Nevada, who wired in a tip after a good-looking young man who called himself James Chandler Morgan was arrested for a rash of burglaries around Reno, all the way across the country. The suspect, known as the Squeaky Shoes burglar, for his less than quiet nocturnal visits, gave his address at Lakewood, Ohio. That bit of information caught the attention of investigators since it was only about 10 minutes from the town where Marilyn Shepard was brutally murdered that past July. But Gold's sleuthing soon turned their attention again. The journalists spotted a newspaper clipping of the Pelkey shooting and the manhunt that was going on in the Adirondacks in the pockets of Morgan as he was arrested, and he had notified the Lake Placid authorities immediately. After fingerprints confirmed a match between the Reno robber and the Lake Placid cop killer, Captain Muller flew in to take custody of Morgan, who is now known to be Major James Arlen Call, a 29-year-old combat veteran currently AWOL from a Louisiana Air Force base. The captain told the Adirondack Daily Enterprise, "His fingerprints are the prints of the man we have been seeking. He looks like the man. He is the man. We have got our killer, and the manhunt is over." At first, Call would admit nothing but the burglaries in Reno, He claimed he couldn't remember anything about his activities east of St. Louis. But Mueller reported that the suspect seemed pretty calm most of the time. He's soft-spoken and he thinks very carefully before he says anything. Back in New York in a downstate police barracks, the suspect call finally broke, coming clean on months of burglaries and the Lake Placid shooting. Next, he was taken to Raybrook to be fingered by his surviving victims and then carted off to the Essex County Jail. He even paid a return visit to Lake Placid on the journey there, enjoying a nice steak dinner at the Majestic, albeit handcuffed and under very heavy guard, mind you. The fugitive call got a breather from his cell to take state police on a 9-hour tour of the area, pointing out the various hideouts that he had in the woods that played a role in his escape, as well as the spot in Tupper Lake where he'd thrown down Patrolman Fell's revolver after the shootout. He had walked more than 300 miles in all, emerging from the woods in Northville at the southern tip of the Adirondack Park. Though he was indicted for first-degree murder and a laundry list of lesser charges, Major James Call pleaded guilty to second-degree murder alone and was sentenced to 20 years to life. On May 11th, he was carted from Elizabethtown to the mental health hospital at Clinton Prison in Dannemora. 10 months later, he was transferred to Attica, and he lived as a model prisoner, and after a little more than 13 years, he was actually released. However, he died in a 1974 car crash in Ohio. But not everyone was convinced that the case was closed on Call's life of crime, including the man who led the search for Officer Pelkey's murderer. "I'll find out if it's the last thing I do," Captain Mueller of Lake Placid told the Daily Enterprise, and after Call was captured, he said it was something big that he was hiding from. "I just know it." That something big may have been that Ohio murder that Reno authorities had initially questioned Call about. We don't know. For years, audiences rooted for the wrongly accused Dr. Richard Kimball in The Fugitive, a television series and movie loosely based on this Maryland Shepherd murder case. Was Call the murderer in real life? Hard to know. Could Kimball's elusive one-armed man really have been a serial burglar with a limp who tried to escape this horrific deed in the deepest corners of the Adirondack Park? Former FBI agent Bernard Connors sure thinks so, and in his book Tailspin, The Strange Case of Major Call, he connects many dots between the Ohio killing and the Adirondack Park's longest manhunt. Well, that'll do it on this episode of the 46 of 46 podcast. I hope you enjoyed the story of the Adirondacks' longest manhunt. If you like this story and you want to hear even more, check out the book Adirondack Outlaws, Bad Boys and Lawless Ladies by Nikki Karofsky. Fantastic read. Lots of fun stories in this book. Check it out. Remember to head over to 46outdoors.com and check out everything that I offer, from an ebook to Hike the High Peaks to training programs to get you ready to climb the mountains and so much more. That's 46outdoors.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of the 46 of 46 podcast. New episodes are on the way. Check back on Fridays for new mountains, new stories, new guests, and new episodes right here on the 46 of 46 podcast. Remember to always leave no trace, do the rock walk, and if you carry it in, carry it out. See you on the trails. Hey everybody, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I certainly did, and as a Lake Placid native, it was a pretty wild story to learn about. But anyways, thanks for sticking around to the end of the episode. I am happy to announce that due to the success of my Great Range Athlete training programs, along with seeing a real need and having the ability to fill that need, I'm excited to announce that Great Range Athlete is expanding and expanding in a big way. You see, I started this podcast 5 years ago now, which is crazy. It's been 5 years. And from day one, my goal and my mission, they've been very simple. 1, I make the Adirondack Park the star of every episode. 2, my mission is to bring the Adirondacks to you wherever you live, because I want you to feel that feeling you get inside every time you pass a now entering Adirondack Park sign. You should experience that wherever you live. And 3, I want to do everything that I can to help prepare you for the mountains so you can all explore and experience and enjoy this magnificent place that I am lucky enough to call home. I want you to experience the transformative powers that these mountains, these lakes, these rivers, that they possess. And therefore, I do everything in my power to facilitate that the best that I can through whatever means I'm able to. So with that said, one way that I am able to help you experience the mountains is to help get your mind and body prepped and primed for hiking mountains. That's kind of my specialty. I've been at this training thing for a very long time. I work with people one-on-one professionally in my fitness coaching business called Seek to Do More. And since the skills that I bring to the table have been helping people get results there so they can get back on the trails, I'm here to do the same thing now. That's why I started Great Range Athlete to begin with, and I'm happy to say thanks to demand, it is now expanding. So if you're looking to improve your strength and conditioning in the mountains and become more confident in your hiking abilities, every time you hit the trail this summer and you simply want to look good, you want to feel good, you want to perform at your best every day in life, both on and off the trails, then listen up. This is for you. Now, in general, hiking's more fun with friends. And you know what? I'm a big believer that training is more fun with friends too. So because of that, I am introducing the all-new Great Range Athlete Team Training Program. Now, this isn't just another training program. No, this is a 6-week journey. It is an adventure that will get you mountain ready, looking good, and feeling completely unstoppable when you sign in at the trailhead, all while being part of an empowering, a motivating community, all filled with people who are fellow Adirondack hikers just like yourself. All right, so let's talk. Here's how it works. First, with my Great Range Athlete Team Training Program, you're going to get targeted workouts every week designed specifically for mountain adventures. Yes, this is strategic training because you need to train for what you want to do. So you can expect your strength to improve, your endurance, and your hiking abilities with training sessions that include everything from strength days to backpacking and rucking days. We're going to up your conditioning and everything else. Everything that's going to make you do better when you get to the trails. You're going to look good. You're going to feel good. And these programs are all designed by professional strength and conditioning coaches and Adirondack 46ers who know the demands of hiking. Second, on top of the training programs, you'll have the opportunity to join your fellow teammates. Yes, teammates. Every week for a group coaching call led by me on Zoom, where we'll dive into your training for the week. We'll discuss nutrition for the trail and for everyday life. We'll talk about hiking. We'll share stories about the Adirondacks probably. In fact, we'll probably nerd out about the ADK and about hiking for half the call, but that's okay. That's the community that you're joining. So you'll no longer be going at this fitness thing alone. Instead, you're going to become part of a dedicated community of fellow Great Range athletes that'll keep you motivated. They're going to become your new friends, and they're going to hold you accountable to keep showing up so that when you do show up at the trailhead, you are stronger than ever. And not just in your body, not just physically, but also in your mind and in your everyday life, because that's what matters. But guess what? We ain't done yet. At the end of the 6-week training block, we're going to schedule a group hike in the Adirondacks so we can all hit the trail together, because that's what it's all about. But that's not the end. Finally, would it even be the Adirondacks if there was not a patch involved? Well, when you sign up, you're not only going to get top-notch training, professional coaching support, a like-minded community of outdoors lovers to help you win, but you'll also receive a free Great Range Athlete t-shirt, a Great Range Athlete patch for your backpack, and a sticker for that Nalgene bottle, because this is the Adirondacks, right? We do patches here. We do stickers. That's what we do. So when you sign up, you are now officially a Great Range Athlete. And you know what? You deserve to wear that badge with pride, because I'm going to be honest with you, I certainly do. It is something I am very proud of. So if you're tired of not feeling your best, both at home or on your adventures, and you're ready to level up your physical and mental strength on and off the trail, you want to meet like-minded hikers and outdoors people, then I want you to bet on yourself, sign up, join us for this 6-week training block, and become a great range athlete. Your mountain adventures are about to get a whole lot stronger, physically, mentally, and thanks to this group training program, socially. All right, so join us for the first 6-week training block. It's going to start Monday, June 3rd and ends July 13th, just in time for that prime summer hiking season. But you do have to sign up by June 1st, and I'm only taking 10 people for this block. So if you're serious and you're ready to go, and this sounds like what you're looking for, I want you to bet on yourself, as I said before. I want you to believe in yourself, and I want you to join Team Great Range Athlete, and let's turn all your mountain adventures into an overwhelming success. Sign up now at greatrangeathlete.com. I look forward to the adventures that lie ahead.